Complaining. What's more, it's raining. Punching in half. Have a nice day.
Well, you are having a nice day. We are playing J.P. McCarthy audio this morning on the 15th anniversary of his passing at way too early an age. I'm getting email from people who are enjoying some of the audio this morning. Parma has sent an email, says, "Oh my goodness, I awoke again to the voice of J.P. Blew me away. What a great guy he was. I listened and learned from him for many, many years. Thanks for the walk down memory lane." You're sure... You're most welcome. We love to do it this morning, too. Also, we got an email from Susan in Ada, Michigan, who says, "Hey, MP, thanks for sharing some JP with us. I just happened to get up early on this summer vacation to take my second child to day camp. Otherwise, I'd be snuggled under the covers on this chilly morning. I'll listen for more JP. I literally grew up with him on the radio every single weekday morning, getting ready for school, and then when I was gainfully employed as an adult. Love you too, Michael Patrick." Susan in Ada, Michigan. Thank you very much. That's awfully, awfully sweet of you this morning. And then we got another email said, "As soon as I heard the music, I thought of my mom and pictured her in my mind in our kitchen. Very bittersweet this morning as the memories come rolling in of a guy who was the soundtrack of our lives for 35 years, #1 in the state of Michigan and in the Hall of Fame. As his producer, there were very many tasks that I was assigned to do. One of them was, on a certain morning, get Chuck Yeager. It was the anniversary of the breaking of the sound barrier, and at 6 in the morning Eastern Time, I was told, get Chuck Yeager. Not how do I get Chuck Yeager, just get me Chuck Yeager. So I said, okay, I'm on it, boss, and I did, and I called everybody I could think of who might be somehow connected to Chuck Yeager, and every 5 minutes he would say, "You got Yeager? Get me Yeager. You got Yeager?" I said, "I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer." But I was no closer. But, I was just saying, just to appease him. I'm almost there. Almost there. Good, good, good. So finally, in the middle of a segment, I called someone who knew someone who worked at an ad agency who had hired Chuck Yeager to do some freelance work. And Chuck Yeager, I got his number, and I woke him up in California. And he said, "I'll talk to JP if you put him on right now. I'm not going to wait on hold long, though." So it was in the middle of the segment. I put Chuck Yeager on hold. I typed on the teleprompter to a JP that General Yeager was in California on line 1. And he looked up JP and he said, "You mean you got Chuck Yeager?" And I thought, what? After all this time, you made me feel like I should have had him 5 minutes ago. Then he was surprised that I actually got him. But I realized that was his way of sort of motivating me. And he ended up having a real nice friendship with General Yeager, and they spoke on many occasions. Here is one of them.
Right now, we're going to remember a bit of great history because it was 45 years ago today. On October 14th, 1947, the United States Air Force Captain Charles E. Chuck Yeager became the first person to fly faster than the speed of sound as he tested the X-1 rocket, wasn't it the X-1? Rocket-powered research plane over Muroc, California, over the desert, and broke the sound barrier, something they said could never be done. We have found General Chuck Yeager at his home in California. He's on the other end of my line right now. We wanted to wish you a very happy anniversary.
Well, thank you very much, JP. It's nice to talk to you again, man. We've had a lot of fun on the radio, haven't we?
Well, and on television, too. I
Yeah.
think I've interviewed you about 50 times, General.
Yeah.
Well, what do you remember about that day? We've all seen it depicted in The Right Stuff. We've read about it in your own book. What do you remember about it today, 45 years later?
Well, I suppose you just look back on it and say we were lucky, I suppose. And we had a great feeling of accomplishment, and that's about it. And, JP, one of the things I think a lot of people didn't realize was, we were working on about 10 different test programs, and the X-1 was just one of many. And as I look back on it, it was just a lot of hard work.
Yeah, but you didn't see any mystique about going through the sound barrier,
well,
did you? Or did you?
Yeah, there was a lot of doubts that we'd ever be able to get through Mach 1, but, and we really didn't know we were going to break the sound barrier on that particular day. In fact, we had no idea that we could, but, duty entered into it, and looking back on it, I think we were pretty relieved that nothing flew apart on us. So.
When you went through Mach 1 and you knew you were there, you had been close before.
Yeah, well,
and you had
we've been
experienced
up to about 0.96 or 96% of the speed of sound,
and had you
pretty
experienced
heavy buffeting?
Well, that's what I wanted. That's what I recall you telling me. There was heavy buffeting,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, the airplane shaking pretty bad, and it was just, and also we had run out of elevator effectiveness, and we were flying it with the horizontal stabilizer or the flying tail on the airplane, and that's really one of the big things that came out of the whole program, was finding out that you needed a flying tail to maneuver or control your airplane in the region of the speed of sound or beyond the speed of sound. Yeah. And it was a surprise to us, really.
And when you finally, that day, 45 years ago, went through Mach 1 and you knew you were there, and there wasn't any buffeting, I mean, it had to be a great feeling of exhilaration. You did it.
Yeah, it really, and we made the first sonic boom there at Edwards, and a lot of people didn't realize what it was. Really, it's quite an explosion. But yes, there was exhilaration, and we were happy that, well, I was, that the thing didn't fly apart.
A little bit of history there, indeed. And we're getting emails still this morning and texts and calls. Our phone line is open at 888-900-9966. If you want to ring in, that's 888-900-9966. Larry in Lansing has sent an email to mpsbigshow@aol.com. mpsbigshow@aol.com, and you can find that at michigantalknetwork.com. He says, great to hear his voice again, especially in the morning. I remember his attention to radio bloopers. The most famous of such was the Paul Carey gaffe. Do you still have that one? Larry wants to know. So we do, and we'll play it right now. Let me set it up, in fact. This was one of the things that JP used to do in the year. He would anchor the Thanksgiving Day Parade, which would go right down Woodward Avenue before the Lions game on Thanksgiving morning. And he would have Paul Carey, who was Ernie Harwell's broadcast partner for the baseball games, as the color analyst. And so they would talk about the floats that were going by and describe them on the radio and that sort of thing. And so here came a group of pom-pom girls. Anyway, here's Paul Carey and JP calling the Thanksgiving Day Parade in one of the famous bloopers.
Joe, I had no idea that pom-pom girls could be so delightful orally.
Well, they certainly are very attractive, and they sound good.
Yes.
They're also dressed in, as you'll note, blue and silver. Now, maybe that's in honor of the
in honor of the Detroit Lions. Paul Carey, who was pretty staunch fella there, he must have turned 3 shades of red after that one. Here, let's hear it one more time. This is a group of pom-pom girls coming down Woodward Avenue during the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Joe, I had no idea that pom-pom girls could be so delightful orally.
Yeah.
Well, they certainly are very attractive, and they sound good.
Yes.
They're also dressed in,
so, you know, it was all
very
business show with lots of newsmaker interviews, but there were lighthearted moments, too. Big stars came on the program. Mickey Mantle, the Mick, was in Studio D, is what they called it, with J.P. McCarthy talking about his times in Detroit. Here is Mickey Mantle with 2 great stars, Mickey Mantle and J.P. McCarthy.
He is, in fact, the Babe Ruth of our time. What a pleasure to see him in the flesh and looking wonderful. Welcome back to baseball, and welcome back to Detroit, Mickey Mantle.
Thanks a lot, JP. Both of those things is very nice. I haven't been back to Detroit for a long time. I used to love to play here. People always are asking, you know, what ballpark did you like to play in the best? And I think Tiger Stadium would have been as good a ballpark for me as any.
You'd have hit 900 home runs if you'd have
Well,
played
I'd
here.
have hit more than I did in the Yankee Stadium. The left center and right center was my power alleys, and in Detroit, they're not that far. But I enjoyed playing here. I hit 4 balls over the roof here, and Norm Cash, I think, hit 4 too.
Yeah, but he played here all the time.
That's what I told him. He's always telling me, so I hit as many balls over that roof as you did.
Talking to Ernie, I said, hey, I'm Ernie Harwell. I'm going to have Mickey Mantle on the Focus Show today. And he said, oh, give my best to Mickey. And I said, what do you remember best about Mickey? I happened to be in the broadcast booth. The year was 1968. It was September. The Tigers had the pennant all wrapped up. Denny McClain was on the mound. He'd already won his 30th game. He was pitching. It was late in the game. The Tigers had the game won, looked like.
6-0.
Yeah. Everybody knew it was your last appearance, probably ever, in Tiger Stadium. So there was a good crowd on hand to say so long to the Mick. And McClain called Freehan out for a little discussion, and that seemed very unusual because there wasn't anything going on that called for a discussion. And then Freehan went back, and McClain tossed you a ball, and I think you fouled it off. And then I think he tossed the next one, and you knocked it out of the ballpark. And as you went around, I recall you tipped your hat to McClain. Do I recall that correctly?
Well, he winked at me. When I come around third base, I look. Actually, he came up to talk to Freehan. He walked almost up to home plate and called him out. And I could hear what he was saying. He said, "Let's let him hit one. This is his last game here." Yeah. But you know, McClain, you don't know if he's going to really let you hit one or hit you in the back.
Sure.
So anyway, the first pitch I took, I don't know, and he went, like gestured at me like, "What's the matter?"
Was it a fat one?
Yeah, right down the middle. And I looked at Freehan. He says, "Yeah, he wants you to hit one." Then I fouled one off, and then the next one I hit it in the upper deck.
Yeah.
And like you said, as I was around in third, I looked out at him, and he gave me a big wink, and a grin, and I tipped my hat to him. It was a nice gesture on his part or something.
It was a nice gesture.
Oh,
really.
It was, yeah.
And
I'd have probably hit one off of him anyway.
There you go. That's, Mickey Mantle on Denny McClain and his last home run there. He mentioned the Focus Show there, and here's what the Focus Show open used to sound like with the voice of Paul Carey.
From Studio D, this is J.P. McCarthy's Focus. WJR presents an active view of life and living in the Great Lakes area. A lively look at people, places, events, and attitudes put into focus by J.P. McCarthy.
Yeah, I bet you haven't heard that in a long time. It is August 16th. 15 years ago today, we lost J.P. McCarthy to myelodysplastic syndrome. It's chronicled in my book, J.P. McCarthy, Just Don't Tell Him Where I Am. Thanks to all the people who contributed to that, and to you this morning, too, for sharing the memories. It's 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966 if you want to ring in, or MichiganTalkNetwork.com.